It's about creating a change, a profound change, which leads me to my own clients. Oftentimes when people come to me and they have this powerful message, they have something that would disrupt other people's thoughts, right? They do discover that why, they do discover that reason why they are here. More often than not, they are very triggering to other people because they come out with information that is not necessarily the general truth or something that used to be perceived as normal. And you've got this great paragraph in your book that speaks of the societal anger of the people that do not feel that they themselves are able to go out and spread their own truth and their own message, and therefore they're actually angry at people that do. And I wanted to ask, what do you believe is the path that we as leaders should be going through in order to, first of all, understand the path, understand what we're doing here, but also how to deal with this anger, how to deal with the pushbacks that we usually encounter, and just stay on the path of leading other people at the same time?
So one of my favorite sayings is, what you think of me is none of my business. But words do hurt, right? So if I'm neutral about something that someone says to me, then I can just observe. If someone says something to me that has emotional impact, that tells me I have unresolved trauma around that or unresolved beliefs around it. Right. So if someone starts to say to me, I don't believe in what you do, and you're making this up and it's not true, and where are your credentials? You're not a licensed mental health practitioner. And I'd be like, okay, then go to one. I know that when I had a breakdown, I went to conventional therapy 3 times a week and nothing was helping me. And these are techniques that helped me. And I decided to become the person I was looking for 20 years ago. But I owned that. If I didn't own that, and if I were in a place where I were insecure about my skills, if I didn't completely believe in who I am, if someone said something to me and said I was a fraud, then I might believe it. And then I go down this rabbit hole and then I'm angry, right? Another thing, so there's very simple tools that you can release these belief systems quickly. You don't have to carry these for long periods of time. There's the Sedona method, which is also known as the emotional release method, and you're releasing these and you can see people transform and reframe how they see the world in a very short period of time, and sometimes one session. And it's extraordinary to witness. The other thing that I find is really powerful is forgiveness. And forgiveness is one of the single greatest things that you can do for yourself and others. And this was my own journey, where I had studied about a couple years ago, where someone started talking about something called the Ho'oponopono, which is an ancient Hawaiian prayer. Dr. Joe Vitale talks about it in his book Zero Limits, where this Dr. Hugh Lin was asked to be a therapist in a prison for the criminally insane, and they had so much attrition they couldn't keep any of the people, the guards or therapists there. He said he would take the position on the count that he wouldn't see any clients. He just got their files and he would pray over them. The prison system was so desperate to have a therapist that they finally agreed and hired him. Within a short period of time, the entire area, that criminally insane, the prison of criminally insane, emptied out. People either went to a mental health facility, or they went back into the prison system. And what did he do? He prayed and forgave. He forgave the part of them. This is how we are all connected. I used that prayer. I used it for myself because I made a list of all the things that were in my way, all the beliefs that I had about myself, and I released them. But that wasn't enough. I had to forgive myself for believing those things about myself and the people who were triggering me. And once I did that, the title of my book came. The book poured out of me in 5 months, and it was a bestseller 6 months after I started writing. It was extraordinary. And I always say miracles will happen, and I can't guarantee that will happen to everyone. But what I will say is, I started doing that prayer, and someone who I hadn't spoken to in 14 years, out of the blue, 3 months after doing that prayer daily, called
Mm.
me and said, I miss you. I want you back in my life. How can we make this happen?
Wow.
And the only thing that had changed was that prayer. So I invite people, if you're very linear thinking and this is really hard for you to wrap your brain around, I can't explain how this works. I always ask people to just trust and surrender to the process and give it a try.
Hmm. And if anything, because I can contest actually, I've done Ho'oponopono myself, you're going to feel better. At the end of the
Yes,
day, you're going to feel better. And I think what is the most important thing for us to understand is, like you said, it's not about what people say to us. It's about the feelings that you associate with what they said, right?
right.
Um, it's your response rather than what they actually said. So we're always going to encounter people that are going to be unhappy. Not everybody's going to love us, and not everybody's meant to love us as
Right.
well. But yeah, I believe that those are some solid, very good tools. And forgiveness, I think, if nothing else, is going to make us feel better about ourselves and the situation. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I wanted to come back to the skills. I wanted to come back to the skills. I actually am of the belief that we are all blessed with certain skills. We are stronger in certain aspects of our lives, and weaker in others. And I was really pleased to read inside of the book where you've been talking about different types of intelligence that we all possess. But I wanted to know, how much do you think of the success, and let's not define success because it's obviously different for everybody else, but conventional success that we might think of, how much of it you think are the skills itself, something that are natural gifts, something that we are born with, and how much of it is persistence, learning, and the hard work that we need to be doing along the way?
It's both. And I will tell you, as a child, I was painfully insecure, very shy. I really struggled. I had undiagnosed learning disabilities as a child, so I was giving my power away to everyone, thinking that everyone else was smarter than me, spent every summer in summer school. So I had to work through that. And when I did, what I realized, because I knew that desperate place of not knowing who I was at all and not believing that I had a voice, to becoming a professional speaker and writer, I wasn't born with that, or maybe it was, but I had to overcome so much to get there. And for those of you who want to be a professional speaker, I joined Toastmasters. And I literally would go to Toastmasters, which is an international speaking training program. It's amazing, and each one is different. So check out a bunch. They all have different personalities, but the one that I belonged to had a lot of professional speakers in it. And I remember when I went the first time, I had to do 5 to 7 minutes in front of everyone, just doing an introduction. I was terrified. I practiced over and over and over again in front of the mirror. And then suddenly someone gave me an opportunity to do a talk that was 45 minutes long. And I was like, shook in my, but the more I did it, it's the reps, it's it's like going to the gym and doing the reps and practicing. And it was a passion of mine, because I knew that there were other people who had been depressed and felt worthless like I had, and that I had the ability to help them. And the only way that I was going to do that was I had to get my message out.
Mm.
So I didn't have a choice in the matter if I wanted to help people.
That talk is actually the next thing that I wanted to touch upon, because a lot of times, yes, we are doing the right things, we are honing in on those skills, we are doing the work, but the confidence doesn't come immediately, does it? And I found it really interesting when I read your story about your first public speaking assignment, and how your perception of that situation was completely different to what had actually happened. And I think it would be very valuable for our listeners to know that story, because so many times we make ourselves believe that things are a certain way, and we let go. We don't pursue those talents, those skills, or even that purpose that we have, just because of those perceptions in our head. Could you speak a little bit onto that?
So one of the first speaking opportunities that I was offered was in Boston at McLean Hospital, which is one of the top mental health hospitals in the country, or at least they're self-proclaimed that. And there's an organization called the Depression and Bipolar Association that meets on a regular basis. So they asked me to talk about our beliefs. So I went in there, and I had a friend who was a stand-up comedian, professional. He was a morning DJ, and he helped me with my talk, and he gave me all these one-liners. So I knew it was peppered with a lot of humor. And I got on stage and I started to speak, and all I heard were crickets. And the more I spoke and the more jokes that I had, the one-liners, the more I only heard my laugh inside my head.
Oh my God.
And as I went through this 45-minute talk, all I saw was, in my mind was, they hate me. I'm waiting for this hook to come and pull me off the stage. And that I started speeding up, and I held my ground, but I was convinced that I was bombing. But I decided, instead of running off the stage, that I need to learn how to be a professional. I need to get through this. As soon as I stopped speaking, the whole room lit up with hands up, and they were asking questions. After 20 minutes, they had to stop. And so stop the questions. And I was really confused until the last person said, when you're really depressed and they have you on high doses of lithium, you can't feel the high highs and the low lows. And I realized, first thing you do when you ask about an audience is, who am I speaking to?
Exactly.
I thought that I was speaking to professionals. It ended up I was speaking to a room full of depressed and bipolar people who were heavily medicated.
But at the end of the day, they absolutely love your talk, and this is what we're looking for, isn't it? If we are providing a speech, whether it is on stage, online, a workshop, a training, that's what we want. We want people to be engaged. We want them to ask those questions. But you're right. We always need to know who we're speaking to, and not stay in our heads, because a lot of the times, and I can see it with my own work, the worst work that I thought that I did was actually the most responsive and engaging one that people absolutely loved. So we need to be mindful of that, not to stay in our heads, because a lot of the time something that we perceive as brilliant and fantastic and polished and wonderful is not going to be as impactful as that thing that we sometimes perceive as, oh my God, this is the worst work that I've ever done before, isn't it?
And people really appreciate how you handle yourself in adversity. Like, I have a funny story. I just bought a brand new microphone that could pick up everything. It's a Blue Yeti. And I had someone come to my house who was cleaning, and I said to her, please don't make a lot of noise. I'm about to get on a podcast with a woman in Australia, and I have this really powerful mic. So what happens in the middle of the podcast, she flushes the toilet 3 times.
Oh my God.
And I have a power, so I live on the side of a mountain. So it's this power flush that it scares me when I flush it, because it's so loud. So 3 times. And I'm going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. We laughed so hard about this, because she said, are you flushing? Is someone flushing the toilet? I said, oh my God. So it became one of her best podcasts, because we laughed about it. We made fun of it. And she named the podcast, around that. So and when you make light of it, you need to laugh. Laughing.
And I'm laughing because I've had a similar story, but with my 8-year-old, we have maybe not a very noisy toilet, but he has this tendency of actually putting the toilet seat down so hard that you can hear it in the whole house. And I remember running this 3-hour workshop. It was like I was waiting and preparing for so long. 3 hours is a long time to be delivering something. And so many times, at least 5 or 6 times, I had that smash of the toilet seat in between, which, it's that ability of you actually, composing yourself in that moment. Is like, okay, everybody obviously noticed because those microphones, they pick up on every single thing. That's true. But just like you said, laugh about it and just moving forward and just pretending that it didn't happen, or saying it out loud is even better, isn't it?
Oh, exactly. I was with a friend of mine. We were invited to speak. It was at an event that was supposed to finish at 7, and then there was a band in the other room. And we were running so late with this group of speakers, and my friend was the last to speak. And they started the band up, and she had started to speak, and we could barely hear her because the band in the other room was playing, and the band was really good. So she started dancing in front of the prompter, and she just handled herself with grace. You have to learn how to kind of think on your feet
Mm.
and bring humor in.
Hey, me again. I just wanted to pop in quickly and say thank you, thank you, thank you for supporting the channel and for being with us for months on end when we were trying to do this new project. So if you enjoyed today's video, remember that the easiest way to support our channel is to like, share and subscribe if you haven't already. And give a chance to all the entrepreneurs to see all sides of business, not just the laptop lifestyle, not just the overnight successes or the fads or the magic methods, but also the bad and the ugly aspects of building a movement, of building a solid business. This is what I'm striving to do here at all times with my guests. So if you really enjoyed this video, please consider supporting the channel in that way. And if you enjoyed it, why not click on one of the videos showing up on the screen right now? Thanks again.